You've obviously been very vocal about the Save America Act. What is so critical about this legislation that is so essential for this bill to get passed?
So when you're talking about the fundamental basics of what our entire system relies upon, it is citizens being able to vote and having their vote count in order to choose your elected representatives that therefore influence and affect your country via policy and representation. And the fact is right now is that our elections are not secure. You have many states, blue states specifically, cities that are already issuing IDs to people who are here illegally. You had the Democrat Party in Senate just literally come out and say they want mass amnesty for over 20 million Americans, even though Democrats, independents, and Republicans, both of Black, white, Hispanic, and Asian descent, all overwhelmingly support voter ID. So if you're American born, you want to have someone show up to the polls and you want them to have proof of citizenship proving that they're an American to vote. The establishment party in DC does not want that right now, and it is because they cannot survive if we do not have election integrity, and that is what this bill is based upon. And so I am willing to go to the mat. I have been on this topic. I have the American people with me. We have over, I think it's close to 50 members in the House that are willing to, I think, kill FISA or put this on FISA in an effort to jam the Senate and force them to vote on this. But as you're seeing, the standing filibuster currently, everything that John Thune and the Senate Democrats or Senate Republicans are doing right now is for show. It is literally performance politics, and that's unacceptable.
And speaking on that, obviously the House has passed versions of the Save America Act multiple times. You just said, again, it's a show vote right now under Leader Thune. What is your direct message to him on getting this bill passed?
I mean, it's at this point, he came out and said that he thought that the backlash that he was receiving was a paid influencer campaign. And when you see the stats, when you see that both he could embrace the standing filibuster tomorrow and get this passed. He could remove the filibuster and get a number of things passed that would codify President Trump's legislation. John Thune was not elected to president. President Trump was overwhelmingly elected by many people that wanted there to be change in Washington, and yet you have very corrupt people in the Senate that are refusing to embrace voter ID. What's been interesting about this whole thing is that I've been making my case to the American people directly, and they are still, for some reason, not understanding it's not competing for the Senate. I'm now calling for primaries on any Republican and Democrat that fails to embrace voter ID, because this is what their own base wants, both Democrats and Republicans.
You talked a little bit about what you're doing, you and your colleagues are doing on the House side. Is there anything else that is going to happen with you guys to get this bill directly to President Donald Trump's desk?
Yeah, so we are attempting to now stick it on FISA, and I do think that the House would, I mean, we're comfortable with killing the current FISA bill if they don't have it attached. That's just the fact on what's going to happen. But that is the way and the mechanism that I believe that this is actually going to pass, because right now, Save America Act as a standalone bill will not survive in the Senate because John Thune's not doing its job. But if we stick it to FISA, FISA is one of these must-pass pieces of legislation that the intelligence community, most of Senate would walk over broken glass in order to pass. And so it is, in my opinion, that that's how we're going to get it done.
And you're obviously very passionate about this. You've talked also about election fraud in California. There's been some video allegations recently about NGOs paying for homeless on fake addresses. You know, there's
I think Nick Shirley found it, right?
Yes, Nick Shirley and James O'Keefe, I think they also did those videos. There's been years of allegations about fraud in California, and these reports that have been coming out recently. I mean, if something like this is happening, what else does it take for lawmakers to kind of see, hey, we need to get a national stance, something like Save America Act out and pass?
Well, I think California GOP also too is kind of looking for a shakeup, because what happened in the redistricting efforts was not acceptable. I think that there was a lot of interesting stuff there. I don't know if we have time on this interview to get into that, but I think that this is one of those things that people have to really decide. I mean, so many people, especially within our age demographic, aren't really paying attention to politics, because a lot of us are focusing on like new families, careers, new marriages, etc. And that's okay. But when you're voting for someone and they're failing to deliver on their promises and really voting for your interest, then it's time to find someone who's more qualified. And I think that that's really what it comes down to. But like, I'm only one person and I represent Pinellas County in Florida. But I can tell you that I get stopped in the airport wherever I'm at and people say thank you. And I think that that's a heck of a lot different than some of my colleagues who are probably getting harassed at the airports because they're not doing their jobs.
Is there any personal story or message that really got you tied into this kind of pushing this bill?
I just, from my perspective, I'm actually the reason why Save America got passed in the first place. or the SAVE Act got passed in the first place because I actually was advocating for new moms to be able to vote by proxy. And mind you, this is less than 13 women who have ever given birth in Congress. But when I saw that the Senate had it for over 300 days and was still failing to act, and they were very comfortably going on congressional delegations, they did 140 days of recesses, meaning they were going home and basically taking vacation, not doing their jobs, going on taxpayer-funded codels, and then also too, you heard them the audacity to say we don't have time to debate this on the floor. One of the most popular pieces of legislation in US history, we don't have time to debate it on the House floor. And they were doing dog parades. That was a slap in the face. And so I said, you know, we might be in the House, but you guys are not better than the House members are. And also this is a co-equal branch of government and you need to do your jobs. And I've had conversation with the president and I know he supports this effort. And so I'm championing it all the way through.
Perfect. And as a Californian, you were born and raised in California. You've kind of seen how our state is going. Is there any message to Americans, kind of a warning stance on this one-party rule that we've had, not only under Newsom, but kind of the years that have been leading up under it?
Well, look, I'm a Floridian now through and through, but when I grew up here, it was still a Republican state. And what we're finding is it's not just California, but it's also places like New York City, where you have good conservatives, good Republicans in these states, but they create these, like, and it starts really locally, how they kind of take over and they'll consolidate, and then these people get more and more and more radical. And then you find that good people that want to just, you know, be left alone by the federal government, that don't want there to be interference, that want to have their freedom, there's an overreach even at the local levels, and you guys actually saw this the best during COVID-19 in California. Yeah. So the warning is that you have to get involved and you can't just complain about it on the internet, and local politics matters, local groups matter. If your elected representative is not doing anything, put your name on the ballot and primary them. But to stay out, especially as a young person, is such a disservice because up in DC, we have so many old people making these decisions, and a lot of them are 1 foot in the grave. Yeah. And so, you know, will they vote for more debt? Of course, because in 10 years they're probably not going to be around, you know, and you have people that are literally dying and they're still in office, and it's a problem up there. So we need younger people to run, and so that's, I guess, my pitch. This is not ageism, so if people try to clip it up, it's just a fact. At a certain point, if you're sick, you should not be putting yourself and your family in the country through that in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and you've talked about, you know, your family, your baby boy, you're a young mom. There are a lot of young moms in California that are trying to fight the good fight. I mean, what is your message to them that are still in California that have these stricter policies?
Yeah, bring your kids with you. I bring Henry, my son, with me everywhere I go. He's actually with me right now. I take him, I travel, and you can kind of make it work. Don't, you know, think that because, you know, you have a kid that you can't, you know, have them show up. If they, you know, make a mess and spill water at a, you know, Reagan Day dinner or a Lincoln event, who cares? You know, most people, especially if you're conservative or Republican or have a big family or you're religious, we understand these things. And so just bring them along with, because, you know, you fighting and advocating for good policies affects them in the future.
And on kids, again, you also led Protect Act Child Safety Online. There's a big social media trial going on in LA. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I haven't.
It's a landmark case where these kids, there's a lot of cases basically, and one of them is being held in court. They've brought Meta, Snapchat, Facebook, all of it on, and Zuckerberg actually testified as well. These kids are basically alleging all of the harmful effects that social media has caused against them.
Yeah, it's making kids suicidal. Yeah.
Yes.
They're targeted, it's making them suicidal. The way that these tech companies actually engineer their algorithms is that it releases, specifically in younger women, these dopamine releases depending on the engagement. And it's actually prohibiting people, especially young kids when your brain's still developing, from having normal interactions in a healthy life. And then it's creating this kind of illusion of what it means to be successful, and it's completely unattainable. And so what we're trying to do is basically put safety measures in effect and in place to where, I mean, you saw what Melania did with the Take It Down Act, right? Mm-hmm. But like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And as things continue to evolve, we have to understand that you have to still put things in place to protect kids and to ensure that they're not being exposed to things that are messing up literally the wiring of their brain, their actual development socially, and then also too physically. And so we're definitely kind of trying to get Congress to up to date with tech, although it's evolving more and more quickly now.
I mean, age also plays a factor in that as well, going back to the age factor in Congress.
Yeah.
For
and
that,
understanding how social media works, because some people don't even run their accounts, they have their staff do it. I'm very hands-on with my accounts.
Yeah, and do you think that could be something of a bipartisan effort as well?
Yeah, so our act currently is bipartisan. There's a Senate and the Senate Democrat and Republican co-sponsor lead on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then touching a little bit, going left, on national security, talked a bit about Iran. There's been a lot of conversations around Iran since the strikes. What is your message to those who are the Americans that feel that foreign policy is a little weak right now, or you've had a strong stance on defense, national security?
Yeah, so President Trump, remember, could have easily, and I actually pointed this out recently on social media, when he first got elected, there were so many people that were pushing him to get more involved and become kinetic with Russia. And he chose not to, and rightfully so, because Russia was never an imminent threat to the United States. As you saw under Biden, we increased munitions. They were literally pushing the war machine, and they wanted to directly engage. And he came and said, no, we're not going to do that. There's no reason for this. What happened in 2016, we know now that Russia collusion was fake. Failed foreign policy from Congress. I found out that members of Congress had not been meeting with the Russians for almost 20-something years. I mean, it was insane. But the point is that he could have easily started a conflict then. He negotiated 8 peace deals. And so to think that he would do this all of a sudden on behalf of anyone but protecting the United States, I think is insulting, but also to not fully understanding the intelligence aspect and component of all this. Under no way, shape, or form would I ever or will I ever vote for boots on the ground in Iran, period. But also, the president has never said that he wants that, and he's still maintained that position, and that's not going to happen. And so right now, what success looks like is what is actually been accomplished, and tonight I think was announced that there's no more Navy in Iran. The ballistic missiles capability have been essentially eliminated, and then the last one was to ensure that Iran could never enrich uranium, of which they were. And CIA Director Ratcliffe actually announced the numbers that they had currently. I think that you will find that as soon as the president does index these strikes, I am encouraging them to release the intel that we have so that the American people can see. But to say that this is going to be the next Iran or Iraq, the next Iraq or Afghanistan is wrong, because it's not.
Okay. Well, perfect. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.